everyone, Russell here again. So today I'll give you an engine build update and explain to you why this is the worst financial decision of my entire life, okay? So before I get started, I signed up for this engine build and paid in full for a finished product, a complete product, okay? It wasn't until the engine was blown up a couple times that beta testing was brought out and mentioned in this process, okay? So I drove from Missoula, Montana out to Iowa to Dr. Powersports, 1,310 miles one way, and just basically recorded and made a YouTube video of the engine build itself, okay? During the engine build, after the assembly, while still at Dr. Powersports, the antifreeze was not properly filled up. There was an air pocket in the engine overheated. It hit 4 bars on the temperature gauge. Once the engine was refilled, it seemed to be running perfectly fine. I drove it around. I thought it was running fine. I thought we were good to go. I then drove it over from Dr. Powersports to Chad's personal garage, about 15 minutes away, put it on the dyno machine. That's where Chad could not achieve the expected horsepower on it. That's when he started putting a bunch of turns on the wastegate. And then the engine blew up. It spiked at 22 pounds of pressure. When we were targeting 14, the cylinder wall collapsed. That's when the blame game started. Chad blamed his shop for overheating it. The shop said it's his fault for overboosting it. Regardless of whose fault it is, I had to come back 7 to 10 days later, which was another 2,600 miles of driving, plus $1,500 in fuel and hotel expenses. Once I returned the second time, we hit 180 wheel horsepower, 230 pounds of torque. Everything was great. I left Iowa, again, under the assumption, here's a finished product, have a nice life, enjoy your Talon. Unloaded it in Montana, complete disaster. Okay, and this is where I take blame. Like, I should have known in week 1 that PPEI was incompetent and didn't know what they were doing, but I was addicted to that power, and I was addicted to hope that they were going to resolve the issue. That's my fault. I should have pulled their stuff off of week 1 and been done with them. Okay, so first off, I want PPEI to be successful. The Honda Talon community needs a tuner. We need them. We need them really bad. I want them to be successful. Okay, during my time dealing with them, first off, Eric has been absolutely unbelievable. He went above and beyond. I could not expect any more effort from a person than what Eric gave me. He was absolutely amazing. Okay, what I didn't know at the time is the success of their tune is 100% reliant on DynoJet releasing a patch that's going to activate the barrel and compensate for elevation. So the reason the engine blew up multiple times here is because it wasn't adjusting for elevation. And there was like hundreds of adjustments. So I drove probably a total of 1,500 miles on my Talon doing data logs just for PPEI, okay? So I don't know, I did roughly 100 data logs without blowing up the engine, where I would drive up, Eric would send me up, hey, try this flash. I would get up there, the engine would die, and then when you rekey it, it was taking the engine from running bad to running extremely bad. So there was adjustments inside of the ECU going on that they weren't aware of and causing it to run lean. So after about 100 trips of doing this for them, the engine finally gave in, which is another trip. So I have a total of 5 trips. 1 is on me, 4 is not on me. So $6,000 in travel experiences, okay? So then I take it back to Iowa, okay? The cylinder head needs to be replaced. The tuning was so bad that it freaking like melted the tip off of the spark plug, okay? Because of the piston shortage, we were unable to replace the piston. So the second engine build, we left with it completely damaged, okay? So cylinder 1 was already 15 pounds of compression lower than cylinder number 2, okay? So it didn't take long for the engine to blow up the 3rd time because it didn't start at 100%. Okay, so then the engine blows up again. I take it back, okay? So the owner of PPEI, Corey, then wrote me, I'll show you a screenshot, wrote me, said, hey, we will cover the expenses of this engine. Okay, cool. And he also agreed to pay shipping of just the engine from Montana to Iowa and back. Okay, well, I didn't want to waste 2 weeks of shipping time for it a week to go out and a week for it to come back. So I just volunteered to drive it again for the fifth overall trip. Okay, once the engine was rebuilt and I had it back in Montana like 1 or 2 weeks after the engine was rebuilt, Corey then said, well, I'm only going to pay for the engine if you sign a non-disclosure and not talk about all of the failures that we had. I did not agree to that. So then I was now responsible like $5,000 something for that engine build, okay? So what's extra frustrating about this is he agreed to pay for shipping and he agreed to pay for the engine, and then he backed out when I didn't sign an NDA, because that's what my YouTube channel is about getting the truth out, and I'm not going to sign a piece of paper to keep the truth from everybody. Okay. So once I get the engine back, 30 miles after that last engine build, the clutch cover breaks on there, and I'll show you a picture of that. Okay, when that broke, it then smoked my 135 clutch, okay? And then another 70 miles, so a total of 100 miles on the complete engine build. Then the camshaft sprocket bolts weren't tightened, so one of the bolts came loose and punctured a hole into the valve cover. Okay, so because Corey wouldn't pay for this engine build, then Dr. Powersports is calling me to pay for it, okay? So the reason this is super disappointing is because I already paid for a 180 horsepower engine, okay? I was sold by Chad Deutsch a complete engine, okay? That was never delivered. So now they want to keep the money for the $7,000 for that initial build and then charge me $5,500 for a substandard engine. So the reason I consider this build that I currently have as substandard is because they gave me a block that was bored out. So if you're familiar with the Honda engine, it comes with a Nicosil coating on the cylinder walls, which increases its longevity, okay? That's the reason this Honda Talon will go 50 to 100,000 miles. So I got a bored out block, and instead of getting 10.5 compression pistons, because they're nowhere to be found, you can't buy them, you can't order them, it takes 3, 4, 6 months for pistons to come in, he then gave me 9.5 compression pistons, which are on the stock size, stock piston size. Okay, so I have a bored out block without Nicosil. I have 9.5 pistons in there instead of 10.5, and they want to charge me $5,500. So I have 5 total trips. 4 of them should not be on me, which is $6,000. I paid $7,000 for an engine, and now they wanted me to pay $5,500 for this piece together engine that's already broken down twice. And even after replacing the clutch cover, after replacing both clutches, after going through all of the valving for the shifting, finding a bunch of metal in there, I've spent countless hours and money on this just trying to get it to drive. So as of right now, I'm 15 grand into basically crushing one of the few things in this world that bring me joy. So the reason I'm coming forward with this is I don't want anybody else to be in this experience. Like, if you deal with PPEI, I hope you have a great experience with them. I hope they get their flash fixed. I hope they get their pads from DynoJet. I wish you only the best. I'm just telling you what happened to me. I was sold a product, never told it was under beta testing. I was then told that they would cover the engine, and then once the engine was rebuilt, they tried, blackmailing me with an NDA and, pinning me with the engine build at cost. So that's not the type of people that I want to conduct business with. So if you do business with them, I wish you nothing but the best, but just keep in mind my personal experience with them. So again, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let me know. Again, if I had to do this over again, I brought a perfectly operating machine to Iowa several months ago, and now I have an $80,000 machine I can't even drive. So I just don't want anybody else to have the headache and go through what I have, to pay $15,000 to make your Talon inoperable. So thank you for watching, and see you on the next video.